Cool. I'm so excited.
Me too.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yes, hi.
Hey guys, we're here live.
Yes, we're live at Manor Hill Realty, and I'm Stephanie Lowe. For those of you on James' feed who don't know me.
Realtor, Stephanie Lowe. And yes, I'm James Brian McCollum here from CIBC Mortgage Advisor. We just want to have a chat, right? Lots of changes in the market right now. I think people have questions, so we wanted to have a little conversation. So
Yeah.
definitely, if you got a question, put it in the chat, and we can, if you could read the small writing, we can get to it.
I would say post your questions, and then we will probably maybe hop back around and respond. We're going to definitely make sure that for those of you who aren't able to catch us live, that you can watch the replay and get all of this information, because we're going to be going over like what's happening in the market today from a real estate perspective as well as the mortgage perspective. We're going to talk a little bit about some of that hearsay, what people are kind of maybe concerned about that might be happening, and then we're definitely going to provide some solutions for you guys.
Absolutely. So Stephanie, what is the word on the street? How I've got clients, wondering what's happening with the market. Is it still a seller's market? Is it a buyer's market now? Is there going to be a big crash? What's happening? So
Yeah.
give us the high level review.
Sure. Okay. Well, there is definitely a lot going on. Just from like the Market Watch or market perspectives, we still had 11,000 sales. So from in March. So that is still higher. That's the, I think, third best March we've had, and second best March over the last few years. So we're still quite active in terms of sales.
So there hasn't been a major shift in sales where people are not buying. Okay.
No, definitely still active. There has been a little bit of market uncertainty for sure. So a little bit of hesitation on the buyer side or on the sales side. So we have a little bit less listings than usual. I think it's like 11% less or something like that. And of course, we're depending on what market segment we're looking at. But the main thing that's the issue and what's been really affecting our prices to a large degree is that we have really rapid population growth. We have a strong amount of buyers and people who want to get into the market.
And not just, so you're not talking just GTA, right? We're talking about all across Southern Ontario.
Yeah. And it's been, that's really been the issue with not so much inventory available. And so when we're getting, that's where you guys have been seeing those bidding wars, and it's just really maintaining the demand and maintaining the price. So that's largely what we're seeing.
Are you still seeing the level of intensity with the bidding wars? That's what a lot of people are wondering.
Yeah.
My buyers certainly are wondering.
Yeah, so I have definitely seen a shift in that. So where we have had, before 23 offers, 27 offers on one property, a couple of weeks ago, I still did see that on one property, but I would say most recently it's not happening to that degree. A lot of people are just kind of tired. They're a little fatigued from not knowing where the pricing lies, and they're just not really wanting to get involved in the bidding wars. So what I've seen is people who had, agents and sellers who had significantly underpriced their property are having to take it down and relist closer to their actual market value.
Right.
So yeah.
Okay, so that's good news for buyers, isn't it?
It is. It makes it a lot easier for people to navigate, so you have an idea of where things are at when you're entering into the market.
That actually reminded me of something we definitely have to mention too is the budget that was recently announced, the federal budget. There's all kinds of tidbits about real estate, including a possible end to blind bidding. Right?
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah. We've been, just from from like OREA, our real estate board, they've been trying to still leave it up to the buyers to be able to, or the sellers, sorry, to be able to determine how they want to price and what they want to do that way. So they're kind of leaving it up to them, whether they want to do like two more traditional listings or whether they want to go the other way.
Oh, okay.
Trying to leave it open and in the hands of the consumers to decide what's best.
And, yeah, I think that's a great idea. I know a lot of buyers certainly want to know, but it's all lots of interesting changes anyway, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so so sales are still good, and now you're talking about buyers kind of waiting. So that's interesting. So we could speak to that a little bit, because I can definitely attest to that too on the mortgage side. I know I've had a lot of buyer clients that were looking for months and months and not getting property because of those bidding wars. And then some of them do just get tired out, and some of them are just listening to the latest news, which we're here to address too, which is what federal budget is part of it. Part of it is the interest rate increases, from the Bank of Canada and just from the banks. And what does that mean for them? They're worried, are they going to keep going up? So that's something we should address.
Yeah. So like the average price hasn't shifted much. So one of the last stats is the average house price is to 1.3 million. So I think maybe the number has fluctuated a little bit, 1,285,000. So it's like, but it's that's really where we're at, and we haven't seen a major decrease in the prices. Right? We just haven't seen that, and I think again it kind of comes back around to that there is a demand for buyers. There's buyers, there's a demand. They want properties and not so much inventory. So I think the way the projection looks is that the market is going to kind of maybe level out a little bit more over the next few months or next year, where we're seeing house prices increase 50,000 week after week or 20% month to month. We're probably not going to see such a drastic change.
Which is good news again. I want to make sure this is on. Am I still on?
I think we're still on. Let's make sure. I wonder if there's any questions. Hi, Joanne.
Yeah. Okay, we're still hanging out. Good. Oh, yeah. So, because the fact is demand is still higher than supply, right? Okay. So for those people that are concerned about maybe waiting to see if the market's really going to go down before they buy, what do you say to them?
You know what? I know people who have just been sitting on the sidelines, 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, or whatever it is, for this market to crash. And I just have to say it's not going to happen. I will put it out there and I will say it's not going to happen. Sorry. I think it's a good time. It's a good time to enter. And I will say when COVID kind of first set in and there was a lot of buyers that really were unsure of what to do, that was the time the streets were empty and I was out doing showings and my clients got to lock in some really great deals. So to be honest, when I see some of this little bit of uncertainty, I actually think it's a great time. If you have your pre-approval in place, you know where you want to be, I would say get in. There's little tips and strategies I try to give to my clients when we're looking at listings, how many days it's been on the market, getting some information on the position of the sellers to negotiate a really great deal.
So now is actually a good time. There is uncertainty right now, right? And I think a lot of what affects real estate seems to be psychology, right?
Definitely.
And same with stock markets as well. So everything's affected by people's emotions and how confident they are and comfortable. So right now, and we're here basically, that's why you talk to a professional realtor, you talk to your real estate agent and your mortgage advisor to give you the information you need to make that decision. So on the mortgage side, again, we've been in a really low interest rate environment during the pandemic. And so, people see the interest rate going up now and start to get worried. But, since, even before the pandemic, I talk to people about their longer term goals and make sure that whatever mortgage you're going to take on, you can afford, okay? And if you're fixed, then you kind of know your payment's going to stay the same until the end of the next term, like 5 years. Then coming up to that fifth year, you have to start looking at your finances and see where interest rates are at. And so that's an opportunity to put money aside if you can, right? Save a little bit each month in case, it's going to be increased once you renew. So that's definitely more important than ever now, whether it's fixed or variable. One thing I talk to my variable clients about is paying more than the minimum. Mm-hmm. And the reason we do that, or I suggest that, is because variable rates can fluctuate. So your payment can fluctuate depending on the kind of product you have. And so it's always better just to have a cushion, right? So I also remind people that if you do a variable mortgage, traditionally you save more money. So even though 2/3 of Canadians like to stay in a fix just because they like to know it's the same all the time, the reality is that you actually tend to save more money in the long run. So even though interest rates are going up now, you have to take a step back, like over that 5 years, it's going to go up and down again. But still, it's important to if you can set your payment a little bit higher than the minimum, that will save yourself the stress. So you're not worried about saving that extra dollar if the payment is higher 3 months from now.
And you also made a great point about putting it into perspective for folks. So can you talk a little bit about how the rates were maybe a year, 2 years ago to where they are now?
Right. Okay. So the reality is, listen, we all have short-term memories, and with social media and everything, I think they get shorter all the time. But so everyone's thinking that the rates we've had during the last 2 years are what they are always going to be and what they have been. The reality is they've been at record lows, okay? Record low interest rates. So before the pandemic, interest rates were in the mid to 3%, okay? 3 to 4%. And during the pandemic, it went down below 2%. And you can get stuff at 1 point something, it was, great. So the reality is that now, as the economy improves, the Bank of Canada, their whole job is to try to keep the economy moving and to balance between, the economy doing well and inflation, which is something that right now we're all hearing about, right? You're hearing inflation has gone up a lot, and a lot of that has to do with the economy's picking up out of the pandemic, and then people like the federal banks, like the Bank of Canada, haven't really made any changes until now. So what's happened now is prices have gone crazy, as we can all see when we're filling up our cars or we're at the supermarkets. Inflation is at a record high it actually hasn't been this high since 91, I believe, is what I read. So that's something to be concerned about. So what the Bank of Canada is doing is they need to hike the interest rates a bit to cool that down and to temper that. So what we're seeing now, are rates going back to what they were before the pandemic. Okay, so we should expect that. So we can't just think of the last 2 years as being the norm. The last 2 years is the opposite of normal, right? Yeah. We can all admit that, right? So we're just coming back into a more normalized rate environment. But will it go up again? It's likely that interest rates are going to continue to go up in the short term. Okay, because if you read, the statements from the Bank of Canada, for instance, they anticipate it going up, 1.5% to 2% from what it was at. Okay, so now we're at 0.75% higher than it was about 6 months ago. So we're getting there, but what they're going to probably do is do another big hike in the short term. The next meeting is in June, so we'll find out what happens then. And then once it's kind of starts to stabilize, then you won't see those big hikes anymore.
Mm-hmm. So really now is a good time. If you didn't get pre-approved previous to the hikes, if you did get pre-approved, you're locked in at those rates.
This is a great point. Exactly. So if you are considering buying now, so if we you come to me and we have a conversation, as soon as we submit the application, we can hold that. What we hold is the discount that we were able to give you today for 120 days. So you can hold it for 4 months. So you can lock that in. For the variable, because it's based off of prime, which moves, you're getting that discount locked in. So definitely, if you're thinking of moving in the next few months, come on, get that pre-approval sooner than later, because rates are going to likely continue to go up.
And I think the other kind of point that I've heard people asking about this interest rate is it going to go up so high that it's going to cause a recession and the whole market is going to crash? And I think we've kind of spoken to that as well. So what were your thoughts on interest rates and what's going on there?
So again, I'm not an economist. I'm a mortgage advisor, but you know, all the information we have available, just so you know, understand, like the reason the rates are going up is to stabilize the economy. Okay, it's not to gouge each person in the country and just take another dollar for that sake. Okay, so you know, the goal is not to enter a recession, right? It's try to avoid it. So really, it's more of a reaction. So like, let's say the crash of 2007. You know, after that, rates went down briefly, and then they had to come up again as recovery was in process. And so now the pandemic was a totally new experience again. Rates went down to record lows, and now they're coming up again as the economies of the world are opening up and doing better. So, you know, we are that. It's going to go up until a point where it's not helpful. Okay, the Bank of Canada is not going to cause a recession. They react
to maintain
to other market forces. Yeah, to moderate it. Exactly.
Okay, very good. So I guess.
Yeah, what do you? So there's some like questions. I'd love to know what kind of questions though your clients have, or maybe there's like some rumors we're hearing.
I think that was one big one. Was that wondering if that was going to cause a crash? I know people were wondering. The other one. So if the interest rates continue to go up, how does that affect affordability for people? So that was the other fear, that the interest rates go up and then people can't afford their homes and then everybody kind of loses out. So that was another one that I kind of hear why people are hesitant to jump in.
Right. So that's obviously, you know, a concern for all of us. We all want to make sure that our clients can afford to stay in their homes. And one reason, I'll tell you, there's something, the stress test you heard about, right?
Yes.
Every time, you know, it was introduced in 2018 in Canada, and the reason it's there is in case rates go up from where they are when you get that mortgage, can you make the payment? Okay, and the reality is, so it's been set at 5.25% is the mortgage qualifying rate. That's been way higher than the rates that people have been getting the last couple of years. So even if you got a super low rate, under 2%, you were being qualified at 5.25 to make sure you can afford those payments. And you know, part of my process is to have those conversations, straight up conversations with the client to make sure, is this affordable? Can you do this comfortably and not lose any sleep? So that's always the goal when you're purchasing, right? You want to make sure you have peace of mind. You don't want to add more stress to your life. But what I was going to say is, for the first time in the last 2 years though, the other part of the stress test is coming into effect. So basically the rate you're stressed at or tested at is either the 5.25% or 2% higher than whatever rate you get. So the last couple of years, the rate you got was so low that if you add 2%, it was still lower than 5.25. Now, just recently, we're in that situation where, you know, if you get a rate of like 3.99 now, if you add 2% to that, that's 5.99. So that would be the rate you'd be tested at for your mortgage. So what does that mean for people? It means that that does impact the maximum amount that you'd be able to borrow. Okay, so that could affect the price, the purchase price, right?
Yeah.
So that is something we do have to keep in mind, and it's part of our conversation, right?
Yeah, and I think a lot of us were complaining about the stress test, you know, at that time, but now we can really see the benefits and how it kind of serves us, and so.
That's a great, it's important to bring that up, because it's like, of course, no one likes the idea of like, oh, come on, I got it at 2%, why am I being stressed, tested at this way higher amount? And it's just for reasons like what we're experiencing now, when the interest rate does go up, that people can still make those payments. I would also want to stress that, when you look at like past recessions and stuff, not that we are in a recession, but I'm saying like people say, oh, we're headed for the crash of 2007. Just remember how that happened. It was based on some really shifty mortgage laws, and in the States, bad mortgages that affected the industry there, and then that spilled over globally because American economy leads the global economy. So Canada, like, it was a very different situation. Like, people were not walking away from their homes to that extent here. People were not losing their homes to that extent because Canadians in general are more conservative with their money, a little safer. Maybe we have some more savings, or at the very least, we understand our responsibilities. So if you are in a situation where your renewal is coming up and you're a little concerned about it, like I said, talk to your mortgage advisor, talk to your bank, and come up with a strategy that's going to work. Okay, so that means like anticipating what your rate's going to be 6 months from now when you renew. Can you save up that extra cushion now so that you'll be able to make those payments comfortably without not doing something you want to do in your monthly budget? Mm-hmm. Or the worst case scenarios, there's always can you talk about payment, changing the payment. So
good, thank you.
We're here to help, right?
Yeah.
So I know we didn't even touch on the whole. What about the foreign buyers tax? Come on. And now that's something that with this whole new federal budget, they've introduced a bunch of ideas, and one thing that actually is in place is what? Tell us about the foreign buyers tax.
Well, from a listing agent's perspective, and people bring this one up, I saw it happen. Like, I saw our my clients listing their properties, and then they have a student that's here that doesn't have a job that's able to put 50% down, 60% down on a property. So from their family overseas. So when I hear about this, I kind of think if your motivation is to purchase property here in the GTA and you're overseas and you're going to have to pay this tax, if you really want to, I feel like they're still going to do it. And it's,
Right.
So we'll see how it really plays out. But
just so we're clear though, there already is a foreign buyers tax.
Yes.
It's 15%.
Yes.
And now it's gone up to 20%, right?
yes,
And it expanded from just a couple areas, right? GTA and the Greater Vancouver
Yeah.
area. And
Yeah.
now it's what is all of Ontario is at 20%.
yeah.
But I don't know, but you would have a better idea because everything I've read is that it's the foreign buyers are actually a small percentage of the market right now. So they're not the ones that have kind of caused all the.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people were trying to blame it,
Right.
blame it on that. But I don't believe that it's going to make a significant impact. I don't think it's going to make that much of a change. I think we have a little shift in the interest rate. We do have this foreign buyers tax increase. So I mean, all of these things will probably work to cool it a little bit. And like I said, that's what we're seeing. We are seeing a little bit of a cooling out in terms of the market and prices. But
in the big picture, that's a good thing, right? Because
our values.
Right.
Yeah.
And for a lot of buyers, it's been difficult, right?
Yeah.
And so I think. What do they say? It's always better to buy 5 years ago.
Yes.
Second best would be today, probably. So.
I like that. Yeah, definitely. I guess we could talk a little bit too about maybe some strategies that people can use today in terms of buyers. And again, I wanted us really to try to speak from what we see live with our clients and happening, because we're both very active in the market today. So we wanted to kind of give you the perspective of what's actually happening and not just the chatter
Right.
that's kind of going around.
Yeah. So like on the mortgage side, so fixed rates and variable rates have gone up. Okay. So and they're affected by different things. Fixed rates are affected by the bond market. So you look at the stock market, and the bonds kind of went up faster than they had in like a decade, a couple of months ago, and so that's why the fixed rates have gone up. Now variable is still lower, but now as we're talking about the whole Bank of Canada thing, that affects variable rates, the Bank of Canada rates. So if we know that they're going to be going up a bit too, that's going to happen. So what I definitely advise my variable clients is to make more than the minimum payment. I'll say that again, because we want to make sure that you have a cushion and that you're not really worried about it every month. So that's one strategy for sure. And again, another strategy, if people are worried about their monthly payments, you know, you can stretch the mortgage out longer instead of a 25-year amortization. And again, amortization is the length of the mortgage, right? So instead of taking 25 years, which is the standard, you can stretch it to 30. And by doing that, you can lower your payments accordingly. So that's a strategy, like if people are more concerned about their cash flow. So that's another option.
That's great.
What about for people that aren't ready to qualify for the mortgage they want today? How can they still get into real estate?
Yeah. Oh, thank you for asking, James. I've seen pre-construction. I've been in the pre-construction market for many years, and I just see people consistently winning in the pre-construction area. Like it provides so much flexibility. Obviously, you have to do your due diligence and make sure you're well prepared. But you know, if something is closing a couple of years out, it allows you to get into the market at today's pricing. Allows you to save up more money, improve your credit, and that sort of thing. So it's definitely
before having to get the mortgage.
Yeah.
Necessarily. For most, depending on the builder, right? Does it depend on the builder?
Yeah, well, you will. You have to like qualify. You would get pre-approved, so you know that what you're purchasing is within your budget, and you would put down your deposits as per the builder's deposit structure. But you do not have mortgage payments or property taxes. You don't have tenants. You are essentially just sitting and kind of letting that time go by and allowing the equity to build in your property until the time of closing. So at the time of closing, you can choose to close out and move into the property and take ownership, rent it, or some people like to do the assignment strategies and sell.
Okay, so what's the assignment again?
So yeah, condos or townhouses, a little bit less often in detached homes, but yeah, you buy at today's value and then you sell in a few years down the road, and that difference in the spread from today's value to tomorrow's price would be like your gain, your profit. Yeah. So it's definitely a great way to be able to get in and give you time to kind of work on the things you need to, grow your money a little bit. Yeah, that way you're not sitting on the sidelines.
Which is great. I think we want to give people options. Like I know for most Canadians, they want to be able to buy a home eventually. So that's a great option. And I know that you also have a really global perspective on pre-construction, which I love too. So you're not just looking at your core market here in Southern Ontario, but you've got some great projects like in Alberta.
Yeah,
right?
in Calgary.
We're talking about Calgary. Yeah. It's a hot market.
Yeah. So there's a lot of opportunities, and the prices in, let's say, Calgary, for example, are not where they are here. So you're able to enter and get into like a pre-construction property for 10% down. 10% down of $299, you're looking at getting into a property for like $30,000. And then again, you're just waiting out that time until closing, which again could be 2 years down the road. So there's definitely a lot of opportunities. We have stuff overseas too, but I won't necessarily get into that. But yeah, and something else that I was using for a lot of people when the bidding wars were really hot was actually having buyers purchase off-market properties. So I still share a lot of those, and that would be like assignment sales. So these are people who would have bought a property a couple years ago and are now looking at selling it on the market. And so these properties are still usually a little bit underpriced.
Oh.
Yeah, they're still a little bit underpriced, so it still gives you an opportunity to get a good deal. Again, avoid any kind of bidding wars, negotiate the deposit structure a little bit. You're getting into a brand new home, so
and again, that's a great option, a reason to use a realtor, a trusted realtor, right? As opposed to just going and trying to do it yourself. Yeah. You don't have the know-how, you don't have the access to that information, right?
Yeah. So those are some strategies that I've been really seeing working for people. And then, like I said, really just jumping on the opportunity that there are as a buyer, okay, there are some sellers in the market today that are just not too sure what to do, and it is a great time to sit down, come to the table, and negotiate a really good deal.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully that was some value. We could just talk forever about it, but this is awesome.
Yeah.
Should I play
Please.
Play us out? Okay.
I was very, very excited about sitting down and talking to all you guys about what we're seeing and working up the market. But I really wanted to get James to play. Hear him play again.
All right, let's play a song for a Canadian classic. That one?
Do? I won't sing for you. Amazing, I love it.
Thanks, guys. Thank you, Stephanie, for all that information.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, James, introduce yourself again for those of you who don't.
James Ryan McCollum here, CIBC Mortgage Advisor, and
I'm Stephanie Lowe, realtor with Manor Hill Realty, and yeah, we're so happy to be here with you guys.